Hey everyone, it's your boy Chuck Johnson, a.k.a. Kid Thunder. Uh, this time I am doing a video response to um, Colin from Distance Not Compute. He was doing a podcast on the fact of, and it was a very interesting podcast too. It was talking about giving up on gaming. I'll have the link to the original video in the description so you can see it in its entirety. Here are my thoughts on it. First off, I want to say that I wholeheartedly agree with everything that was mentioned in the video itself. I am 30 years old myself. I was born in the mid 80s, and I've been gaming since the NES days, you know, for the most part, in the Sega Genesis days, things like that. Um, and I'm gonna go on record and say this. I'm gonna go on record and say this. The video game industry has been constantly evolving, ever since, video games were first introduced, which was back in the late 60s, early 70s, something like that. And it's a constantly evolving industry, so yes, things are obviously pretty complex and things of that nature. Things were complex. I mean, the industry itself was always complex, pretty much since the NES. I mean, pretty much since the very beginning of the industry itself. I mean, there were complex game. There were games that were pretty complex during the Atari days. Take that one Indiana Jones game, which was very ambitious for its time. I I believe it was based on Raiders of the Lost Ark or something like that. But yeah, it was a very ambitious and complicated Atari game for then. Uh, and then during the third, and then obviously during the third and the fourth generation, there were games that were pretty complex then. Obviously the original Legend of Zelda was a pretty complex game for its time. I could never beat the first quest for the life of me. You know, and I'm quite stuck on the eighth dungeon of that game, so it's a pretty complex game. Uh, and then what else? I'm gonna go on the record and say this. Colin, I actually enjoyed your podcast on that behalf because even at the age where I'm at, I the person who actually written the letter, I believe it was Tim that told you about it and asked you if you could request a discussion on it. I kind of got to the point where I gave up on gaming too. Now, I'm a video game reviewer, but I also went to school for game development. But what I was being taught in school was pretty much develop games for, that are industry standard instead of doing something that's like more or less independent. You know, I put it this way. I really don't, in this current generation, I particularly am not keen on console gaming nowadays in comparison to, in comparison to portable gaming because I find portable gaming more interesting. Now, yes, I'm on the go, but I don't play video games like I've used to. I haven't really committed too much of my time and effort. Now, I just purchased a Nintendo Switch. It's a very interesting console for one thing, because it's a console slash hybrid type of a game console. So I could pretty much plug it into the TV or play it while I'm on the go. If I'm, going on a trip or something like that. And I thought it was a unique idea. Because there are people like me who are not really interested in console gaming, and just like what you said in the video, in your podcast, um, a lot of people like myself who have tons of priorities, don't really have the time to commit to gaming these days. You know, here's an idea. I work 12 plus hours a day at my current job, and playing video games nowadays, it has become an extremely rare opportunity. I'm gonna go on record and say this. I'm an indie developer. Even though I haven't showcased my game yet, because I feel that I have become a bit too media shy on showing it. And if I show it now, I pretty much don't know how will individuals react to it. But as far as the indie scene goes, I actually agree with you on that behalf, because you were saying that it pretty much closes the gap of what the industry is pretty much missing in this day and age. But I would go on record and say this. In the case of, why should I give up playing video games? Well, I'm not giving up on playing video games. Each generation, I would go on record and say I do enjoy video games from each generation. Even though, as far as genres go, it's pretty eclectic of what genres of games I like. I'll be very honest with you. I'm not a fan of FPS. I like FPSs, but I'm just terrible at that genre. I'm terrible at games like Grand Theft Auto, especially due to the fact that I'm not even a fan of that game series. I never had an interest in that game series from the very beginning. I thought it was, in my opinion, I thought the game itself was pure smut. But other than that, I was never into that never into that game series from the very beginning. I don't really enjoy a lot of so-called AAA titles. Especially sports games like Madden and 2K. I don't play Madden or 2K because literally I do feel that playing the real sport is much better in comparison to a sports simulation video game. But overall, I agree with your podcast as a whole in the case of giving up on gaming. Now, the question is, would I give up on gaming myself? No, because gaming is a hobby. It's something I like to do in its pastime. I put it this way. It's like I used to like watching TV. you know, but if I watch TV, it's only certain genres of television I watch. Like I still watch I watch anime, and I still watch, even at the age of 30, I still watch Saturday morning cartoons. Even though these days Saturday morning cartoons is quite irrelevant nowadays. So I would turn to services like Netflix or Tubi TV, where you obviously would be able to find find those genres of TV shows. I watch a lot of old sitcoms. I mean, from back in the day, and it also goes on record like this. What you will also saying in your podcast, in the case of looking back for old, a a person at the age of 30, looking back on video game systems I've never played, as a kid growing up. I never owned, let alone heard of, a TurboGrafx 16 when I grew up. Um, uh, I never owned, let alone heard of a Sega Master System when I grew up. So, and there, I didn't own a Genesis nor a Super Nintendo when I grew up, and I've been collecting for those two consoles, for a while. I didn't start I didn't start video game collecting until 2008, but video game collecting has been, I'm just a casual collector and not really, hardcore, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, me giving up on gaming, I'm still going to continue. I don't find I don't find that happening to me anytime soon. The only way I would give up on gaming is pretty much, you know, not even thinking about talking about gaming as a whole anymore. Or, just stick with, a completely different hobby. But gaming has always been my hobby as a kid growing up. This is Chuck Johnson, a.k.a. Kid Thunder, signing off. Take care and stay tuned for future content.